Since the earliest civilizations, necessity has inched us forward. Facing challenges, we've been inspired to reach, to innovate. But not all the monuments to man's ingenuity are visible. Hidden beneath the surface of cities, ancient and contemporary, lie other achievements. An intricate web of vital arteries which connect us, sustain us, benefit us all. You can't really appreciate a metropolis until you see the subtropolis beneath. This infrastructure, these invisible places, make civilization possible. Most people never see them. Now, you will. In Les Miserables, Victor Hugo called it the fetid stream of subterranean slime that the pavement hides from you. The stink hole, the place where everything goes eventually. The sewers. Since what comes in must go out, even ancient civilizations had basic sewers. But it took a visionary in Paris in the mid-19th century to create a complete system, a model for the rest of the world. When Napoleon III ordered Baron Haussmann to clean up the city, the celebrated urban planner redesigned Paris, opening it up with broad avenues. But that's only the surface. His assistant, engineer Eugène Belgrand, created a technological marvel, a network of watery streets below.
The dirty water from the faucet, the washing machine, bath water, and also rainwater, and all this converges into one area, the sewers of Paris.
Christian Douillard's family has worked in this underground labyrinth for generations. It's unique. Nearly every street in Paris has its mirror image below. Stretched end to end, the sewers measure about 1,300 miles, the distance from Paris to Istanbul. The whole system works by gravity alone, carrying the wastes to treatment plants on the city's outskirts.
It's like a spider's web, if you will. If you look closely at a spider's web, you will realize that there are small membranes that become bigger membranes, and then bigger membranes. Well, the Paris sewers operate the same way.
The job of keeping this vast system flowing is très formidable, but somebody's got to do it. So every day, the sewermen descend to the darkness to check the walls for cracks and keep watch over the city's water pipes. Using pocket computers, they transmit their observations to headquarters. To ease repairs, every kilometer of Paris's sewers was built large enough for a man to stand in. Its size has given this slimy world a secret life, as an escape route for countless thieves and smugglers, and a refuge. For Jean Valjean in Les Miserables, the sewers offered a place to hide from the battle above. Victor Hugo made Paris's new sewers famous, yet he also described a time just a few years before when the old drains were the scourge of the city, the stink hole. In the early 19th century, there were still open sinkholes even in the heart of Paris. In 1832, tainted drinking water caused a terrible epidemic of cholera and the plague, killing more than 18,000 people, and finally prompting action. By the Universal Exposition of 1867, Baron Haussmann himself was leading Parisian society down under to gape at the city's newest source of pride. The vast construction eventually took 80 years and gave rise to a fraternity of sewer workers. Most of these men are doing the same work as their fathers and grandfathers. Didier Coll, the captain of this team, has worked in the sewers for 27 years. He's seen a lot of change.
In the beginning, when I started working in the sewers, we had no gloves. We had carbide lamps, which means they could explode in the sewers. We didn't have helmets. We didn't have anything to attach ourselves with. Now, we have all that. And now, we are vaccinated.
Even with the safety precautions, this crew is in almost constant danger. The actual job they do has changed very little in 100 years. Every morning before most of Paris is awake, these plumbers of the dark side descend. In the main sewer, Captain Didier Coll assumes control of his ship, or bateau van, the old-fashioned way to flush this ultimate toilet. After a while, the crew stops to lower the floodgates from the bottom and sides of the boat. These barriers create an artificial dam, building up water pressure. When released, the force of the water flushes the solids forward.
The main concern is to fall off the boat into the water. Can you imagine? It's not the Seine. If these people drank some of the water, they would have some health problems.
Drinking from this poisonous river of slush is not the only hazard. The workers find syringes, gasoline, almost anything in the sewers.
There was that famous crocodile that was found that is still living. We have also found small snakes, we found turtles, we found cats, dogs. There are people who lose their car or house keys, who call, and sometimes we find their keys. Sometimes they are lost.
All this stuff clogging the sewers sometimes calls for extreme measures. When the main tunnels get stopped up, the French bring out the ultimate sewer weapon, the ball.
Ces boules fonctionnent selon le principe suivant, c'est-à-dire que ces boules font...
These balls work in the following way. They are 9/10 the diameter of the tunnel, small enough to fit in it and still roll, but large enough to have a flushing effect. This is just like all the other machines you have seen. They all work the same way, like a toilet flush.
In use for at least 100 years, the sewer balls are made of wood, sometimes with a concrete core, and can weigh as much as 20 tons. Fitting snugly into this underground river, the ball pushes the solids along to the sewage treatment plant.
C'est terminé. Le coup, c'est simplement le coup de l'avoir amené.
It's just a matter of putting it into position, letting it go, and picking it up on the other side. So, voila.
Meanwhile, back with the crew, the situation is getting tense. The flushing boat is turning crossways and beginning to tilt from the force of the water. But it takes more than that to upset these men. Their biggest fear, a rainstorm.
When it rains outside, there is a man above with a trumpet. He blows into the trumpet so that we know there's a storm, and we get out. We go up to the surface as quickly as possible because the water goes right up to the gutter.
Between 60 and 100 accidents take place in the sewers every year. Taking no chances today, the sewermen will seek refuge in a safety room, the same place they go to wait out a storm, often surrounded by rats. Changes to this 100-year-old ritual may be on the way. Paris is now modernizing its sewer system. Automation could replace the bateau vane and its valiant crew. Maybe they'll even put the ball away in a museum. While across the Atlantic, it's high-tech all the way, as another city struggles to solve its water problems underground. It feels like a journey to the center of the Earth, 23 stories down, through rock millions of years old, to a subterranean world as eerie as anything on the planet. Welcome to TARP, the Tunnel and Reservoir Project of the Metropolitan Sanitary District of Greater Chicago. A tunnel system even longer than its name, more than 100 miles, and still growing. The 21st century solution for a city with monumental water problems. Just 160 years old, Chicago sprang up at the crossroads of trade. The juncture between the Great Lakes and the Mississippi Basin was the obvious place for a city on a map. The only trouble, it was some of the flattest, wettest terrain anywhere. So Chicago engineered itself into existence on ground never meant for a city.
I'm standing today in a battered survivor of the natural landscape of northeastern Illinois. This is also where Chicago gets its city motto, which is Urbs in Horto, which means city in a garden. It was the beautiful wildflowers of the prairie that gave them that name. We could have had a different name. We could have had, for example, city in a marsh, city in a swamp, city in a bog. This is a place that wants to be underwater. And a great deal of the history of Chicago is our efforts to fight that tendency and keep it high and dry.
Jerry Sullivan works for the Forest Preserve District of Cook County, which looks after the patches of undeveloped land left around the city. With more people crowding onto land with poor drainage, every rainstorm becomes a potential threat. Chicago's combined sewer system carries both rainwater and waste. So storms have often sent raw sewage into the waterways or the basements of houses. Now when it rains, polluted water falls down drop shafts to this tunnel system, Chicago's latest strategy in its battle against nature. Since 1994, finished tunnels have captured enough sewer overflow to fill more than 30,000 Sears towers. Leading the way is a tunnel boring machine, churning through the rock like a massive, hungry earthworm. Developed in the 1950s, this impressive technology was made bigger and better to fit the demands of the Chicago project, and then went on to make the Eurotunnel possible. Its rotating teeth made of tungsten carbide fracture the rock, propelled by 10 motors with a total capacity of 1,000 horsepower. Buckets along the cutting head catch the gravel and dump it onto a conveyor to carry it to the surface. From a cab on top, the operator steers the machine guided by a laser beam.
Right now we're advancing what, Tommy? About 10 feet, 11 feet an hour right now.
Mike Weeks has worked in tunnels for 15 years, all over the country.
To whom I recommend this job would be to anybody who thought they could work hard and take a few nicks and knacks and keep on getting up every morning and coming to work. Hard work.
But the tunnels are only the front line in Chicago's war against nature. From their battle stations in this control room, operators monitor storm emergencies. If more than 1/3 of an inch of water falls throughout the area in an hour, the tunnels fill up, despite a capacity of more than 2 billion gallons.
3,
That can pose a challenge to the system's two powerful pumping stations. These underground behemoths can pump more than 1 billion gallons of sewage in less than 2 days, from the tunnels to the treatment plants. Chicago is a city that never thinks small. In an earlier effort to fight pollution, the sanitary district made its reputation with an engineering feat unrivaled in its time. In Chicago's early days, disease from contaminated drinking water was a constant threat. Every 2 or 3 years, thousands were killed in near epidemics of typhoid fever, cholera, and other waterborne diseases. But that was when the Chicago River flowed into Lake Michigan.
Somewhere about 100 years ago, people realized that if we were going to live in Chicago, we were going to have to turn this river around. The reason was, of course, that we were pumping our sewage into Lake Michigan and then pulling our drinking water out of the same body of water. This is not a healthy situation. So they said, well, let's turn it around. Let's make it flow south. Let's make it go down the Mississippi. And from that point on, the Chicago River has flowed backwards.
This engineering feat was accomplished without boring machines. Mule-drawn plows, wheelbarrows, early steam shovels, and the sweat of new immigrants built the sanitary and ship canal. It took 8 years, but when the canal opened in 1900, it sent the sewage flowing away from the lake, backwards to the Mississippi. But of all the city's achievements in the face of its natural problems, the biggest one is probably the most obvious. This is where the skyscraper was invented. With the lake and the rivers hemming the city in, up was the only way for Chicago to grow. Building on mudflats, engineers had to get clever underground. William Baker is a structural engineer for the Chicago firm Skidmore, Owings & Merrill, which built the Sears Tower and the John Hancock Building.
In order to be able to create these taller structures, there had to be an innovation in the foundation systems. And that innovation was caissons. The caissons are essentially stilts that go down from the surface to the bedrock below the city and enable to support the weight of these very tall structures. These drilled piers, these shafts, these caissons are 8-foot diameter shafts that go down, and then they terminate with a bell. And then those voids are, of course, filled with concrete, and the concrete carries the load up to the building, and that's how these tall buildings were built.
No city in the history of the world grew as fast as Chicago. In the 19th century, moralists predicted the city's defiance of nature would result in calamity. But no one was prepared for what happened on April 13th, 1992. The ultimate invisible disaster. A rupture in a tunnel under the Chicago River unleashed a flood into the basements of buildings throughout the Loop, Chicago's central business district. The city that works came to a standstill. Compounding the problem was the fact that many of the city's power lines ran right through the same underground tunnel system that was flooding. By day 6, when the tunnel's leak was plugged, most Chicagoans had learned all about a forgotten and now very soggy footnote in their history: the underground freight tunnels. They were constructed at the turn of the century, supposedly for the nation's first dial telephone scheme. Almost 60 miles of tunnels 40 feet below the surface. But entrepreneurs quickly sensed a bigger profit in hauling freight. So they laid track and connected nearly every downtown building to the railroad terminal. Most of the tunnels were less than 8 feet high, so men of small stature were hired to run the toy-like locomotives. In its heyday, tour trains even came through here. but the private tunnel company went bankrupt in 1959. Decades later, the local power company, Commonwealth Edison, reawakened the tunnels. Now even more vital to the city, 268,000 volts of power course through here, encased in concrete, along with fiber optic cables. It's a rather curious mixture of past history and 21st century progress. And as the 21st century dawns, city planners all over the world are finding even more uses for the underground in tackling some of the toughest problems facing cities today. Boston, famous for patriots like Paul Revere, for finance and high-tech industries, for the Celtics and the Red Sox, and for that bane of cities all over the world, mind-numbing, back-breaking traffic. Boston's central artery is jammed with 190,000 vehicles a day, more per lane than any interstate in America.
As we look down the road at what we were doing, people in Boston realized that if we did nothing to improve our transportation system, we'd all be sitting in a 16-hour traffic jam in just a few years.
Peter Zook is the project director of what this city calls the Big Dig. The largest, most complex, and at $8 billion, the most expensive highway project ever undertaken in the core of a major American city.
We're going to take an existing elevated structure and put that underground. So we're going to be doing a lot of underground work, creating a new underground place.
And this underground place runs right through the center of Boston. The city couldn't afford to shut down or to lose the existing artery in the meantime. So the construction consortium got a second job almost as big as the first. Keep Boston moving in the midst of underground upheaval.
I think there'll be a lot of really upset people at the noise and the traffic problems, but this road is going through the middle of a city without taking one single person's business, without knocking down a single house.
Digging is nothing new in Boston. The first subway system in America went in here 100 years ago. Adding to the underground maze is a vast network of utility lines. Fortunately, advances in computer technology have given engineers like Linda Miller a new window to the underground. As an astronaut candidate and a helicopter pilot in the Gulf War, this supervising engineer was used to challenges. But with computer-aided design, or CAD, she can solve them faster than ever.
The entire industry and this project is really just on the cutting edge of making use of the 3D CAD animation. And if you've ever been out in a construction site where something is not going together, it's costing you thousands of dollars an hour to have it not work. Here we can literally go through the scenarios that will be played out by real people in the field, and to spot interferences in advance, to work through them, to make sequences go more quickly. We've literally changed entire designs after we look at them in 3D CAD and realize the possibilities of doing something different.
Dewey Square is ground zero, one of the project's most complex, with 7 layers underground.
At the top you have the buildings, you have the street surface. Directly beneath that you have a brand new lobby that we're building. We're demolishing an old lobby, building a new lobby. Directly beneath that you have the new MBTA subway tunnel that we're putting in. Beneath that you have the existing Red Line subway, and then beneath that you have the new Central Arteries highway tunnel.
Construction on this scale is a lot like the Army, says Linda Miller.
There's a lot of camaraderie, there's a lot of long, hard hours, a lot of standing out in the cold and the mud, figuring out tough problems. And big toys, that's the same thing. Big, expensive toys.
The biggest toy on this block is a prototype French trenching machine, or hydrophrase, complete with a French operator. Engineer Jim Dobler calls it a quieter and cleaner way to build a trench.
The old conventional way was to dig these panels by using a clam bucket that reaches down, digs into the material, picks it up, and puts it in a truck. This piece of equipment right here, those cutter wheels, they can cut clay, glacial till, and then eventually they go down into the rock.
Again, the trench is about 20 feet long, about 3 feet wide, and goes down all the way into bedrock, about 13 stories deep. Steel will be placed in, and it'll be pumped full of concrete and will form one of the walls of the underpinning tunnel.
While Boston sleeps, the digging goes on. Workers are moving 10,000 miles of utility lines before they can even begin construction of the artery. This Herculean effort is one for the history books, something all the workers can appreciate.
I'm from the Boston area, and something like this large, I mean, it's once in a lifetime opportunity.
Feel good, you know? It's like I'm gonna be a part of history.
We're taking away the history and putting a new history in. That's about it, so it sums it up. It's gonna be new and modern and better.
One of the reasons why I and so many people feel so proud to work on the Central Artery is it really is comparable to the pyramids of Egypt or the new Euro tunnel. It's a real signature work. Some people work on a project that will be important for the next 10 years. The terrific thing about working on the Central Artery is it's going to be important for generations to come.
Some relief is already here with the opening of the project's first leg, the Ted Williams Tunnel under Boston Harbor. Like skinning the proverbial cat, technology has now brought us several ways to make a tunnel. These giant double-barrel steel tubes were constructed in Baltimore. Each one is longer than a football field and weighs 22,000 tons. Shipped to Boston, they were lowered into a trench carved out of the mud. Though the new tunnel doesn't look unique, its surveillance and ventilation systems are state-of-the-art. 2 buildings house fans with a total of 7,100 horsepower to flush the carbon monoxide out and bring the oxygen in. Even with all this, some people still get scared in a tunnel. But when it comes to claustrophobia, the ultimate test has got to be the Euro tunnel. It feels different the moment you board. This is no ordinary ferry, skimming the waves between England and France.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board the shuttle.
Hermetically sealed, this shuttle goes down, way down, 300 feet below the bottom of the sea, into the longest undersea tunnel in the world, 31 miles across the English Channel. Engineers have dreamed about a tunnel across the channel for 2 centuries. In 1802, Napoleon proposed the first one, with transportation by carriage. The channel's geology is ideal for tunneling. At its narrowest point, there's a layer of chalk marl, a combination of clay and chalk impervious to water. In the 1880s, the 2 countries even began drilling, but work was halted by the British military, who envisioned invading forces streaming through the tunnel. 100 years later, the time was finally right. Technology made it easier, but it's still an impressive saga. For each of Eurotunnel's 3 tunnels, massive boring machines like the ones used under Chicago set out from each coast. Guided by laser beams, they met in the middle. Engineer Richard Storer has been involved since the planning stage.
Well, it was always the standing joke that if we missed, we got 2 tunnels for the price of 1. Of course, when you're driving tunnels towards the center, you have to have a plan to deal with the machines when they meet each other. the machine is bigger than the finished diameter of the tunnel, and therefore you can't reverse it out through a smaller hole. The machines from the UK side were driven offline, and the heads of all three machines are concreted into the seabed. Maybe in millions of years' time, somebody will find fossilized tunnel boring machines.
Working right behind the boring machines, crews lined the tunnels with concrete up to 2 feet thick. The meticulous surveying and laser tracking of the boring machines paid off. When the first two met finishing the service tunnel, they were only centimeters off.
That's through, that's through.
For me personally, it was the culmination of at least 6 years hard work. I was in right at the beginning of the project when, to all intents and purposes, it was still a dream. And I felt very proud when the tunnel boring machines broke through.
With the opening of this latest symbol of European unity, Great Britain is a true island no longer. Now, for the first time, a single train journey connects London with Paris, 3 hours away. And England's famous old Waterloo station has been transformed into Waterloo International. There's still an air of excitement about this passage, and a little tremor of fear. What if something went wrong far beneath the sea? Reassuringly, security feels more like an airport than a train station. With terrorism on everybody's mind, even the trucks drive through an X-ray machine.
I think one has to go through it because it is there. I always felt I must do it.
I think it's very symbolic, and I think that the Conservative diehards should come through it, and they should be made to come through it with whips, so they realise we're actually part of Europe, you know.
I don't like tunnels. I always vowed I'd never go on Eurostar. Never.
We're just about to enter the tunnel now.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your train manager speaking. In a few minutes we will be entering the Channel Tunnel. Transit time should be about 20 minutes.
Studies say 1 out of 6 experience it. Claustrophobia, a queasiness in the pit of the stomach. Philippe Parquet teaches psychiatry at the University of Health in Lille, France.
C'est un trouble qui est sans fondement logique. C'est-à-dire qu'on a les jambes coupées.
It's a disorder that has no logical foundation. One experiences wobbly legs, has difficulty breathing, dry mouth, and a fast-beating heart. That's the physical side of this feeling. And the other part is intellectual. It has a lot to do with the sensation that something terrible could happen to you if you found yourself in some sort of situation.
I don't know, I was scared from childhood, actually. I think it happened, something that happened to me as a baby, but I was always frightened. I mean, even going through the Mersey Tunnel, I have recollections of screaming and screaming and screaming.
Walls collapsing, train stopping, nowhere to go out of. I don't understand if something happened to the train, how you'd be able to get out back on top of the water.
In November 1996, these fears proved well-founded. A fire broke out on a train carrying trucks, injuring 31 people and severely damaging the tunnel. Though service through the Eurotunnel has resumed, the incident may well have intensified the fears of many.
It's coming out.
There we go. I didn't even see it. Goodness.
But for others, a safe ride puts those concerns to rest. For the train operator, it's all in a day's work. The dark passage seems shorter every time. Working underground has long been the province of miners and tunnel workers, but now even office workers are becoming subterranean. Most people think of the flat plains of the Midwest as quiet, never on the cutting edge. But as the song goes, everything's up to date in Kansas City. This picture is not what it seems. The Randolph mine is one of the largest in Missouri, yielding about 1.5 million tons of rock every year. But it's only half of this underground story. The amazing part is the other half. They call it Subtropolis, the world's largest underground business complex. 150 feet below the Kansas prairie, it's home to more than 60 businesses. Distribution, storage, literally billions of dollars worth of stuff. The brainchild of Texas billionaire Lamar Hunt. Leave it to a clever entrepreneur to make money out of a hole in the ground.
Usually in a business you use something up, and when it's used up you don't have anything left over. Well, in our case, we are creating, by the mining, we are creating something that may even have more value later on.
Getting a handle on the size of Subtropolis is a challenge. But as the owner of the Kansas City Chiefs football team, Hunt has an answer for this too.
Well, right now, the area that is mined out in Subtropolis would hold approximately 27 versions of Arrowhead Stadium. When it's completely mined out in some 15 or 20 years, it would hold 34 Arrowhead Stadiums.
I've worked here for 14 years, and it took me about 3 months where I could find my way around down here.
As supervisor of security, Lisa Krause can tick off the advantages of this underground labyrinth. Like a natural year-round temperature, 65 to 70 degrees. Low utility costs, low rent, 24-hour security, unlimited space. Where else can you find this in a city today? There's even an entrance for trains. Subtropolis is one of the only landlocked foreign trade zones in the U.S., welcoming goods from all over the world. 1,300 people come to work here every day, but it's hard to find them in 10 million square feet of space. Mostly you find boxes. The freezer vault holds real treasures. Hidden here are the duplication masters and production elements for thousands of Hollywood films. Across the way, every single TV adventure of Hawkeye, Radar, and Hot Lips. Here they rest, beneath the heartland of America. Nearby is the Postal Service's Philatelic Fulfillment Center, home to more than $500 million worth of stamps. Requests from collectors all over the world end up here, where the constant balmy temperature keeps the stamps in prime condition. Subtropolis claims employee productivity is higher down here. Shirt sleeve weather all year round with no outside distractions. Gary Stone manages the Philatelic Center.
What is it like to work underground? It's different. You become accustomed to it, so it's not a problem, but you still have the daily, I guess, surprise when you go out at night and you find out what the weather has done during the day. Has it snowed, rained, tornadoes, whatever?
It may not look like the Boston artery, but even Subtropolis has a rush hour. Once the workers have headed home to the real world, it gets mighty quiet down here. The fans keep a steady drone, a reminder that this is an artificial world. No stars shine here, no natural light at all. The pipes are laid openly on the ceiling, so problems can get fixed in a hurry. The biggest fear here is fire, so sprinklers are everywhere. Another precaution to make this a habitable space. while on the other side of this vast limestone cavern, the daily ritual in the dark continues. There's at least 15 more years of mining left here. The crushed limestone is in great demand for construction, roads, and airport runways. So every day, Subtropolis gets just a little bit bigger. And man's quest of the underground continues. 21 centuries have passed since the first great engineers, the Romans, dug their tunnels underground. Amazingly, their legacy still remains. In Rome, la dolce vita, or the sweet life, is often spent in the piazzas, in the shadows of the hundreds of shimmering fountains. To the Romans, fountains are more than pretty adornments. They're a celebration, not only of the vitality of their eternal city, but of the lifeblood that made its grandeur possible: water. Many of the glories of ancient Rome still exert their magic on this modern city. But few would guess that underneath their feet lies one of Imperial Rome's most remarkable achievements, a key to understanding what made this civilization prosper. A hidden Rome, invisible to most, coursing under the ancient storms. 2,000 years old and still functioning, a marvel of engineering skill, the Aqua Vergine. These walls attest to the ebb and flow of Rome's tumultuous history.
L'acquedotto Vergine fu costruito verso il 10-12 avanti Cristo.
The Virgin Aqueduct was built around 10 or 12 BC by Agrippa, the husband of Julia, the daughter of the Emperor Augustus. And Agrippa was a great general and a marvelous builder, and he built the aqueduct very rapidly and with great stability.
As Rome's first water commissioner, Agrippa brought honor to the position, doubling the city's water supplies. Following in his footsteps, Chief Engineer Girolamo Bardi has spent more than 40 years with the water department. He knows every inch of its tunnels. It was said the ancient Romans were in love with water, and they needed it. At its height, Rome had 1 million residents. Social life in the capital revolved around huge public baths and the city's glorious fountains. Catherine Rinnie, a senior Fulbright Fellow, is writing a history of the role of water in the urban development of Rome. She's mapping the hidden network of water under the streets, relating it to the fountains above.
As a total system, it's rather extraordinary. There are wonderful descriptions from Frontinus, who was the curator of the water system in 97 AD. And he asked us, how dare we consider those idol pyramids or those useless monuments of the Greeks when there was this phenomenal Roman system of water?
From the source of the water in the hills surrounding the city, the Romans built channels of brick, stone, and concrete. With nothing more than the principle of gravitas, or gravity, to guide them, they carried the water in a vast network throughout the city, supplying the baths, the homes of wealthy citizens, and the public fountains. 3 of the 11 aqueducts still function today. The Aqua Vergine culminates in Trevi Fountain, one of the city's most famous sights. Girolamo Bardi points out that part of the sculpture tells the story of the aqueduct.
The origin of the Aqua Vergine, of the name Virgin, comes from this pure young girl who showed the soldiers of Agrippa where the source of the water was located. And now we find ourselves here in the zone of the Calatino, around 20 kilometers from Rome, where in these peaceful flowered fields, the girl showed Agrippa's soldiers where to find the source of the virgin water.
With a constantly renewing source from the mountains, the reservoir under these fields has supplied water to Rome since its earliest days. As in ancient times, small pyramids mark the precious route of the aqueduct underground. But now they're made of concrete instead of marble. Nearby, the water of Aqua Vergine, said to be Rome's sweetest, is closely monitored by circulating it through a fish tank. If it's impure, the young trout will die, a warning to prompt further chemical testing, like a canary in a mine. Aqua Vergine is unique in that almost all of it was built underground, even in the city. This subterranean route ensured its survival.
It was the aqueduct's good fortune, because when the barbarians arrived, they couldn't damage it, which is what happened to the other aqueducts that were out of the ground and sustained by arches.
Vulnerable to attack, most of the city's above-ground aqueducts were destroyed when the Goths conquered Rome in 537 AD, cutting off the city's water. Even the mineral-rich flow of Aqua Vergine was bricked off and silenced. Rome would not truly awaken again until the Renaissance. The Villa Medici, home to one branch of these famous patrons of the arts, was built in the 16th century on one of the 7 hills surrounding Rome. Its builders took great pride in what coursed beneath its foundation. They constructed this Renaissance staircase with 100 steps to descend to the remarkable site. The Aqua Vergine, flowing again beneath the streets of Rome. The rediscovery of its imperial glory helped Rome emerge from the darkness of the Middle Ages. During the Renaissance, the popes restored the emperor's practice of building fountains and public drinking spots at points along the aqueducts. Throughout the city, the fountains were the center of neighborhood life. Here, women did their laundry, gathered their drinking water, gossiped with their friends as they bathed. Though times have changed, Catherine Rennie still calls these fountains the essence of life in Rome.
They're like punctuation marks in the landscape, and it's the point at which the aqueduct demonstrates itself, and I began to see them, especially when I began to understand how they're connected underground, as almost like beads on a rosary. In that they operate as moments of pause. You stop and it's a moment of contemplation. They almost grab you by the neck and force you to stand and pay attention to them.
And Trevi Fountain may be the most impressive of all, especially at night. This 18th century Baroque fountain is by Niccolo Salvi, just the latest to mark this intersection of 3 roads, or Tre Vie. Inside the pump house, the wall is inscribed with the names of wealthy Renaissance donors, whose money helped restore Aqua Vergine. Legend goes that if you throw a coin in Trevi Fountain, you will return to Rome. Cities, civilizations. Ever since the ancient Romans, scientists and engineers, city planners and architects have solved an increasing array of challenges by turning underground. What's ahead? As the Earth fills, will we be as likely to look down under as to venture out to other worlds in space? In Things to Come, novelist H.G. Wells had a vision of a utopia carved from the rock by a remarkably foresighted tunnel boring machine. Immune from the cares of the elements, it would be controlled by man and his technological achievements. Who's to say these visions won't be realized, that an underground world could be in our future? But no matter what's to come, our fascination continues with these invisible places.